Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you all.
I have so many thoughts after that that I don't even want to ask the questions that I put together. But one thing that occurs to me always is that you mention people donate clothing to you directly.
Yes.
I imagine that you didn't start out that way.
No. Yeah.
So do you mind talking a little bit about how you sourced your clothing in the beginning versus and how it started to change?
Sure, you bet. So initially, my art studio was on 10th Street in the East Village, and there was a local church that had a flea market every weekend. And I noticed that they at the end of the day, they would be bagging up all of this clothing that didn't sell. And so I approached them and asked them if they'd be willing to give me anything that they can't sell, or anything that's damaged.
Is this before or after the suitcase?
That was about the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, that was actually before, during. Yeah.
During.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they were my first benefactor for secondhand clothing, and they would just give me bags every week, and then once word got out, friends and family would give me things too, and then I confess sometimes I would trash pick. Like someone would, in the East Village, there's a real culture of sort of
dumpster diving.
But also like people, if you had something good, you wouldn't put it in the can. You put it on top of the can.
Right.
And so
or hang it up on a fence.
Or hang it up on a fence.
Post.
Yeah. And so there'd be bags of clothing sometimes that were neatly folded, and I would take them to my studio and look through them. And if they were fine, I would use them. I'd wash them, but I would use them. Yeah.
And then over time.
And then as the projects got bigger and the need for more and more materials increased, I started reaching out to. Actually, the first thing I did was in the. I guess it's maybe kind of associated with the church in a sense, but the green markets would sometimes have people collecting textiles, and I talked to somebody there. They gave me a card, and then I called them and about what I was doing, and they were starting out, and they were like, "We would love to do a collaboration with you where we trade publicity. So you and your marketing will mention that we are the benefactor, and then we'll also be able to post whatever you're doing to our feed, and so it'll be like a win-win publicity thing, and then I started doing more traveling projects which were outside of the city, so they weren't able to help me, and the organizations I would work with would sometimes find textile recycling companies to work with me, and so I worked with a company called US Gain or US Again when I did a project in Chicago, did a couple projects with them, and yeah.
Have you ever been to those Midwestern clothing warehouses where you buy clothing by the pound?
Oh, yeah, there was one in Long Island City at one point that I used to go to that sold it by the pound, but for me, when I'm making a 700-pound sculptures, you still don't want to pay $10 a bag. That's
right.
So
that's right.
So I would really need it to be cast-offs, and so the thing about textile waste is that it gets sorted by grades, and the first thing is haute couture with tags, obviously, and then it goes from there. Then it's in season and in good shape, and then it's in season not in good shape, and then it's out of season, and then it's it needs a repair, and the stuff that once it gets to the point where it needs a repair, it's worthless. It's pretty much going to go to the incinerator or get landfilled. And there are a lot of efforts to recycle now, and they are making some progress on it, but the onslaught of secondhand clothing waste is so intense that no one has cracked that nut yet. It's still a huge problem.
Because of fast fashion, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So do you want to talk a little bit about fast fashion, and for anybody who doesn't know what that is?
Sure. So I started doing this work, as I told you, because really the emotional part of secondhand clothing, for me anyway, the idea that it carries a trace of the people who wore it, that's really what drew me to the material, not really ecology. Even though I am very much an ecology-oriented person, it really wasn't about that, But it's so inherently integrated into the work, whether you want to talk about it or not. That one of my actually that wearable collections, the people who first sponsored me, they connected me with the New York City Department of Outreach and Education, which is associated with the New York City. I can't think what it's called. The Sanitation Department of New York City, and they do education, and they reached out to me and sponsored me to do a project because it's like I'm working with literally hundreds and hundreds of pounds of secondhand clothing, and so we designed a piece together where they gave me data on how much textile waste is created every minute in New York City, and then I made a piece, and we calculated the weight of the piece, and then calculated how long it would take for that much textile waste to accumulate in New York City. And it was like the piece was two pieces that were both like 6 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet, and that amount of textile waste at that time, it was like 7 minutes, I think. Yeah. And but it's only gotten worse. So one statistic I came across a few years ago, which really blew me away, is that this is a study that was done in England. I don't think the results of the study are specific to England, but it was done there, and they found that women in England would wear a garment an average of 4 times before it would be discarded. So to give you a sense of, and part of the reason why that is possible is because of fast fashion. And so, companies like Shein, making things so incredibly inexpensively so that it's like, it's people kind of think of it as like a roll of paper towels.
Disposable, yeah. Well, do you have a sense of, maybe you've calculated this, how many pounds of clothing has your art collectively kept out of the landfill?
If I added it all up? Oh.
Yeah.
well, that would be fun to do. Unfortunately, I don't always weigh, and I don't always count the garments, which I probably always should. But I would say that the inherent problem with that calculation, though, is it maybe assumes that that I'm actually part of the solution in terms of textile waste. But I'll say here amongst family and friends here that I am not, because actually, like for many of my projects, I will get a load of clothing. So I'll do a project, and a company will come and drop 500 pounds or a ton of clothing on the curb, and I work with people to make a project. And then at the end of the project, it goes back into the waste stream. So I'm not creating waste, but I'm not actually solving the problem. It's still, they're to actually make a dent in that problem. Wow, that would require some other kind of activity.
Have you thought, I'm sure you have, but have you thought about the sort of gender politics of fast fashion? Meaning, so men have a classic outfit they can wear, and they can wear it forever.
Oh, yeah.
And women are expected to constantly change their look. I was talking about this with a friend today, and they were like, yeah, I can't be seen in this dress again.
Yeah.
And so that's part of what drives fast fashion, but that's gender politics, right? Because men are not expected to change like this.
Absolutely. I was working with someone about 2 years ago, and I was her boss, but she also, I think, generally admired my work, and she said to me one time, I have a confession to make. And I was like, tell me anything. And she goes, well, when I do an Instagram video, I don't feel like I can wear that outfit again on Instagram. It's like everyone's expecting me to have something fresh on Instagram
Every time.
all the time. Every time I'm on Instagram, I need something fresh. And I don't judge her for that. I think it's a lot of pressure, a lot of social pressure for that, you know. And the other thing is, I don't want to be that guy that's like fashion's bad, because it's not. I think it's super cool. It's really creative, and it's like, and it brings joy. I mean, it's like it brings joy when you find something that makes you look good. You put it on. It's like, yeah, you know.
Feels
It's really complicated.
So I'm curious about your own wardrobe. Do you, I noticed, and I'm not calling it out, but that you have a worn spot in your jeans.
Yeah, right.
And there's a little hole there, but
Right.
it's definitely from keys or
Yeah, it's real.
It's real. Like you didn't get them
Yeah.
texturized or like take
Yeah, they
a
come
saw
that
to
way.
them or
No. Yeah.
So would you keep these jeans until they're shredded? Like what is your cycle of clothing like for you?
I had a really hard and fast rule for the first probably like 10 years or so of doing this work with secondhand clothing, because I used to think like, oh wow, I'm gonna get some cool stuff here, you know, I'm gonna get some great stuff, I'm gonna save some money, you know, and I think something looked great and I'd put it on, and then like I'd be wearing it and I wasn't thinking about anything, you know, and I'd pass by a mirror and I'd go like, ooh, you know, and it pretty much, I came to realize that pretty much anything that gets to me, even if it's in perfect condition, it makes you look terrible, and that's why I have it. So I pretty much did that. But then the funny thing that happened, I've been doing this work for so long. Some of the clothing I've had has been in and out of 3 or 4 sculptures. I've like used it in a sculpture and then took the sculpture apart and then used it again in another sculpture. So now I have clothing in my collection that might have been a little bit old when I got it. Now it's actually vintage. And so this sweater, for example, I would have never worn this 10 years ago, but now I'm like, this is kind of, I like this. You know? It kind of works, you know. And also there were jeans in there, like back 10 years ago, I probably would have only worn Levi's, you know. Now it's like ugly jeans are the shit, you know. And so like I have some jeans that have like bell bottoms. I'm like, great, I love it, great. So.
Well, so is there a classic?
Oh, but I didn't answer your question about wear though.
Yeah.
And I pretty much wear things until they fall apart.
That's what I thought. That's what I
They start
imagined.
out as like something. If they start out nice, I wear them as my nice things, you know. And then they become something that becomes my knock around things. Then they become something that I wear in the garden, you know.
Yeah.
And then when the knees go, then they become shorts, you know. And then when I get a crack here, then I would potentially have to get arrested. They go in.
But only if you're going to get arrested.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're cool with a little breeze.
I'm okay with it, but there are children around and I don't want to traumatize anyone, so out they go.
Have you obviously you've tried on clothing that's come your way, right?
Yes.
From these donations. Have you ever tried on like something that you know you wouldn't wear?
Oh.
And just to see what like
It
trying on
feels
the
like?
personality is at all? Do you
Yeah.
ever do that?
Not from that perspective, more like because something was just so wrong that I had to try it on and see what it looked like, you know.
Is there a predominant fabric? Like, is it all polyester by the time it gets to you? Or is it like some cotton, some, you know, how does it go? Like, what is the majority?
Cotton poly blend.
Yeah.
Almost everything's some kind of cotton poly blend, you know, and but everything under the sun. But a lot of it's mixed fibers, almost all of it, which makes it a problem for recycling. Mixed fibers, you have to separate them. If they're going to get used again, then if there's a cotton poly blend, if you're going to reuse that again, you can reuse it as a quilt. You know, you can reuse it as a rag. I do. But if you're going to try to turn it back into new clothing, you have to take the polyester and the cotton apart and make something cotton, and make cotton thread and then polyester thread. You know, and the technology from that is there, but it's not. It's still cheaper to just make new stuff, to just use raw materials. So,
Does it? further to that, has there ever been a fabric that you've been like, this is so, I know you said there's no good stuff, but
Yeah, you
that's
might get
so
raw
fine,
materials, yeah.
that's so like something
yeah.
special that might have been in couture, but it ripped or something like that. Do you
Yeah.
ever get that stuff?
Occasionally. One time something came through that was a silk. It was just a shard, but it was a piece of black silk that was woven with black silk this way, and then metallic thread that way, and it was really scratchy but really beautiful at the same time, and you could kind of crinkle it up in a ball and it would just stay. It was really weird.
Yeah, that is very weird.
Yeah.
One of the things that your work sometimes makes me think of, and you probably know about them, are rag rugs.
Yeah.
The way that, like you said, as the clothing disintegrates over time, you start sewing the pieces together and braiding it together and weaving that into a rug.
Yeah.
It seems like some of your pieces look like the texture of a rag rug.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking at, for example, your Sky at Night piece, is that the title of it?
Starry
Night, sorry.
Or no, Night Sky.
Night Sky, sorry.
That's what people say to me.
Were you specifically asking for donations of those colors? Because you clearly had a color palette, right? So how does that work? Is it all through sorting? Or
Yes.
is it that you say to, let's say, a partner, do you have a pile of turquoise blue
Right.
for me?
Right.
Like, how does that go?
Well, the companies I work with to provide me with donations sometimes, they are generally, and it only so far as that they will give me bags of clothing that they don't want. They're not going to sort it for me.
Right.
But Wearable Collections in the past has on occasion I've reached out to them because I'm like, I need 200 pounds of yellow, and they have a collection bin, like a collection like space in lower Brooklyn, in Brooklyn, and obviously I don't know Brooklyn, but and I will sometimes go there and pick, yeah.
And I saw you had volunteers. Do you have a crew of people that, is it like, hey Teresa, you want to come in today?
It can happen. It's often friends and family who just want to spend the afternoon. And the thing about my work is a lot of it, once you get a little training, you can easily carry on a full-on conversation for the afternoon. So it's a nice kind of ritual to like fold clothing and chat with people and catch up. It's kind of like going for a walk with someone. You're physically engaged. It's not like just sitting here, you and I. You're physically engaged doing something, but you can carry on a conversation. It's a certain kind of headspace.
Well, it frees your mind up, I think, to be active with your hands.
Yeah.
So you have like a different type of conversation, maybe more in depth, more direct.
Yeah. I once met someone when I did that project at the Queen's Museum who said, I was there in the Queen's Museum folding clothing with people, and he said he was from somewhere in South America, I think, and he said to me, oh, that's very nice there. There's a word for that in my country. It's called da-da. And it's like, it's the word for a conversation you have when you're folding clothing. There's a special word for that, and I so regret that I didn't write it down.
Wow.
And I tell people that story, hoping that someone is going to come and tell me they know that word, and I will write it down. But they have a word for it.
So another thing, when we were watching the presentation, I was really struck with, has anybody worked in a retail clothing store before? Anybody? Okay, I sure have. There is like a very specific way to fold. Your folds are so precise, and I'm kind of a terrible folder. And it's why I could never fly at the Gap, because you have to really be precise. So what do? Do you have a form that you fold clothing around, or is it and then take it out? Could you talk about it?
I had heard about clothing folding machines, these things that you do, and I built one, and it did work pretty well. It was like you had this piece of cardboard, you laid the garment on in a certain spot, and then you went like blunk, 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 and you could just pull the form out, and there it was. But that only works if everything's the same thickness. If you're trying to make a stack that goes straight up like this and the garment goes from one end to the other, that only works if everything's the same thickness. So if you go from a t-shirt to a sweater, the sweater is going to be a half an inch wider. So I couldn't do that. And then there is also this really cool video from a woman from Japan who does this thing where she's got a t-shirt and she goes like this, and she goes, and it's folded. And but that again would only work with certain things, right? Yeah. So no, I actually take a little piece of tape and I outline a square on the table for whatever form factor I'm trying to target, and we work to just fold within those confines.
So your helpers fold as well. It's not just you folding.
Just me. No. Yeah.
And some of that stuff looks like I-beams to me. Like some of it looks like you could build a house with it.
Yeah,
I mean,
if it didn't get wet.
That's true. Or maybe you could like Scotch guard it.
Yeah. Maybe.
Who knows? Have you ever worked with things like fur?
A little bit. Sometimes I'll let it come in because it makes like for a great texture and like. Just looks great to have like a little stripe of fur coming out sometimes. I don't encounter a lot of it. A lot of it doesn't come to me for some reason. I don't know why. That's very rare.
I think there's less and less fur now.
Yeah.
I think people are not using it anymore, and then the vintage stuff is like gone or disintegrated or too valuable.
I did get this like kind of shawl that has two holes for the arms to go in, and it's this big kind of fur thing, and that I kept for myself. It was purple too.
Purple? It was real fur?
Oh no, it's fake.
Oh, okay.
It's like wine colored.
Do you like costume parties?
Yes, I do. Can't say I go to them very often.
What is a costume that you've worn that is meant to be a costume, and what is one that you wear in day to day? I once went to a party my brother invited me to, where I had some old white clothes and I painted them so that it looked like there were flames coming up my legs, and then around my feet I glued like pieces of wood and cardboard and newspaper around the bottom, and when people ask me what I was, I would say I'm the undulating flames of burning propaganda. and then because it was my brother's party, they would say, "Oh yeah, you're a flame, all right." Which I didn't like. Of course not.
In everyday costumes, I feel like I'm wearing a costume. I feel like I really believe that that gender is a performance, and it's not just gender. I think identity is a performance, and I think we perform it every day when we get dressed.
Yeah, I think everything is drag. I think literally everything is drag, and it's like, what drag are you trying on today? What are you putting on?
Yeah, and there's something kind of cool about it too, because you can be like, actually, I'm going to dress this other way today because I'm going to be this other person today.
Right.
You know?
What's your favorite persona from a piece of clothing that you put on? If there is one. You don't have one.
Well, I think I really like the persona of being kind of the macho artist who doesn't give a fuck. So like sometimes you might encounter me in town wearing my studio clothes, like with paint on me and wearing like shoes with holes in them, and I'm kind of like, I'm an artist. I'm just going to the pecs. Like an artist.
Like an artist does.
Yeah.
To
That's
get
how
my
they
breathe.
do it, you know? Exactly. There you go.
I wanted to know, I'm assuming that most of the clothing, because we're speaking about, is women's clothing.
A lot of it is, yeah.
Would you
A
say?
high percentage.
Yeah,
I would
higher?
say probably. I really don't. I for some reason forget to think about that, but when I'm sorting, but I would say probably 70% is female.
Yeah, I would imagine that. I would actually have thought it was higher because of fast fashion.
It might be.
But I think there
It might
is
be.
men's fashion as well. I don't know if we ever gave it a full definition. Besides
Yeah.
Shane, it's like
Yeah.
the Gap, Old Navy, everything goes
yeah.
down to like $1 or
yeah.
$2.
Yeah. Or even all the unnamed brands, like in Jackson Heights, Queens, there's a store that sells flower pots and heaters and clothing, and they just have racks of clothing out on the street, and you can just buy a pair of pajama bottoms for $3.
Yeah.
I don't know where that stuff comes from.
And what's it made of? Polyester mostly, or
Probably.
yeah.
Yeah, probably synthetic. Yeah.
Do you is there ever clothing that you wish you could get your hands on?
If I was sorting and I found a Martin Margiela, I'd be fine with that.
Nobody.
Yeah, actually, I covet. He made a piece one time that's all made out of ski gloves, and it's a vest, and it's all just ski gloves. Yes.
Do you sew?
A little bit more than usual lately. I'm not a very good sewer. I only know 2 stitches.
What are the two?
One of them I think is called a whip stitch, which is when you just go like this.
Yeah.
And then the other one is called a blanket stitch, which is when you do this, except you then go back and connect into the loop, and then you make them, and then you go back. So it looks like a whip stitch, but there's a little line connecting each one.
Okay.
I think it's also called a blanket. Did you call it a blanket?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, it's a blanket. You see it sometimes on the edge of a blanket, like an old blanket that has the fake silk piece that's going across the top.
Oh yeah, like an old
That's
wool.
often a
Like
blanket
yes,
stitch.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I was going to ask you, kind of to wrap it up a little bit, but what is coming in the future for you? Like, what are the projects you're excited about, and what do you hope that people take away from the work you've done and the work that you intend to do?
I would say the projects I'm excited about is that I'm doing a solo show with Nona at Hall Space in Eldred, she's an old friend, and she came over to my studio about a month ago, and I got really excited scheming with her about what we might be able to do. And one of the things that we're going to do is she has this alcove, and I'm going to make a black cloud mobile that will sit overhead, and it will move like this, and then I have some other works that are all black that are quite spooky. They're very unlike me. I don't quite know what it's about, but I'm just going with it. And those will be on the wall, and there may be some like poofy furniture you can kind of sit on, so there might be sort of this environment in there. I'm excited about that.
Is that a continuation of the show you did in Denmark? Didn't you have a cloud in that show, or did you try to? I feel like it was in your studio, and you were.
I was talking about wanting to do one there, but no, we didn't do that.
Okay.
But there's that, and then I'm doing a lot more rubbings, and I'm enjoying painting again. So enjoying working with fluid acrylics and rubbings together. Those pieces are really fun. And one thing that's really nice about them is my work is often, as you could see from those like process pieces I shared, they're often so many steps, and they take many, many months to do. And there's all this planning. It's kind of like being a film producer, as much as it is being an artist. Those rubbings, I can do one of those in a couple days, and then I can pick it up and walk around with it. It's really quite amazing.
Hang it up somewhere.
Yeah, and I would just say to wrap, the thing that I really hope that people get, out of this work is that I hope that they, from seeing my work and interacting with my work, that they develop a more conscious awareness around what they're putting on their body as they do that every day, and start thinking more about the choices they're making.
I wanted to know if anybody in the audience has any questions for Derick. or any comments, feedback about the art or the presentation? Yeah, please, Tracy.
Well, you were speaking about how you return most, if not all, of the clothing. So I was just thinking, what do you decide, if at all, to keep as far as your pieces to keep? And can you speak to that?
Yeah, it's really it's the eternal problem of that sculptors have is storage.
Yeah.
You know, and so it often comes down to the things that can be stored most easily, things that are smaller or things, and then sometimes, you know, if you have like a sculpture and maybe it has this kind of overall effect, and then there's one part that's much more high touch, maybe you just save that part, you know. So and then in terms of the textiles, about I would say about 70% of what people wear is somewhere in the family of blue, from having done this work over the years, and then actually probably more like 50%. But then the next quarter is made up of black and white, somewhere in black, white, and gray in there, and then in that final quarter up there, that's where all the color lives. That's where all of the yellow and the green and the red and the orange and all of that lives. And so when I do, when I do get a chance to collect specific colors, I'm always looking for the colors that I'm not going to be able to find, like saffron.
Yeah.
Pretty much, you want to stand out, wear saffron. Nobody wears it. Nobody except for Jenny Claude from Christo's wife. She wore only saffron, but she was the only one, and nobody else caught on to that.
This just occurred to me. Do your friends, family, everybody assume you want all their old clothes?
Some people do. Some people are mindful of that. It's an extra step to then connect with me and bring it to me. My family has never given me anything except for what I've asked for. Yeah.
I noticed you were wearing a plaid flannel jacket today.
Yeah.
Is that sort of reminiscent of your grandfather after hearing that story?
He would have worn something like that. Yeah. That was wool though. But he would have been wearing flannel. Yeah. I got that when I was in Hong Kong doing my project. In that project, they sourced about a ton of clothing.
Wow.
And we went through all of that, and there wasn't one single thing that was any good. And so I did go thrifting at one point just for myself, for fun. And but I found out that when you're a tall guy like me, thrifting in Hong Kong, nothing fits. Nothing fits except for that wool flat jacket.
Which is gorgeous. Anybody else want to?
Absolutely stunning, beautiful work. Just I'm so blown away, and I can't help but think, sometimes when I'm overseas, whatever. There are huge markets, like the Italian markets, huge every week, huge markets of piles and piles of clothing. And I'm trying to figure out, well, why, where does this all come from? And apparently these EU just, as of 2006, I think next March, it is going to be illegal for them to burn clothing. And so it's all going, lots of it is all going to Switzerland. And I just think,
why does Switzerland allow burning?
I don't know. No. It's going. They have opened up major processing centers for this clothes to try to figure out how to recycle them, repurpose them. I think you'd be a hero in that country, absolute hero.
Wow.
You could really, because it's very inspiring what you're doing, and it does really speak to.
I probably live in the wrong country.
Time to go.
I think they're waiting for you. I'm going to get back here to the ground and see if you'd be a hero there. I know you would.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I do have a quick question about the pieces that you have that were wood that you were piecing together in the Queens.
Yes.
Are you cutting the clothing to make it go against the wood, or are those full pieces of clothing, and how are you attaching them?
I generally avoid cutting the clothing, partly because the way I feel about it, but also it adds an extra step. It's time consuming. It's a lot of hand strength, so actually that folding is all just, for those pieces, all the clothing was just folded so that it would be in 4-inch strips so that it could then get tucked into the frames and stapled into place. Yeah. They did have to be stapled in though, because otherwise you would turn it over. So, yeah.
I was actually, that was a question I had earlier and I skipped over it, was you build these frameworks, right? Are they always the same materials? Do you use wood? Do you use, because it's lighter, or do you use like steel because it's gonna hold 700 pounds?
Steel's also really expensive to work
Right.
with and I have to hire a fabricator, so I typically work with wood and metal piping, so I can do a lot with that.
And you build your own?
And I build my own armatures, yeah. I did have that one piece in the Queen's Museum that was 10 feet tall. I did hire someone to build a sort of a Christmas tree stand for center spine, that one up there, so. Local welder,
Given the business.
yeah.
Well, thank you everybody for coming, for your kind attention. It's been really wonderful to speak to Derick and to have him here, and for all of you to be here. Please stick around. We're going to have some wine and cheese and chat with the artist. Thank you so much.
Thank you.